Hi, General Psych students. Today I'm going to be talking about the brain, specifically why it's important for psychologists or students of psychology to have a solid understanding of the human brain and how it works. Okay. First and foremost, if you recall, we said that the field of psychology was defined as the scientific study of mental processes and human behavior. Well, it's important for psychologists to have an understanding of the brain because every human behavior and every mental process that we engage in is to some extent controlled by the brain. From the simplest of reflexes to the most complicated of decision making and problem solving abilities, the brain is involved. Okay, so therefore, it is important for us to understand how the brain functions, how the brain is wired, and how it is that the brain allows us to think, to dream, to feel, to jump, to eat, to be interested in an activity, to be motivated, because all of these things are affected by the brain. Okay. The second reason why it's important for psychologists to have an understanding of the brain is because almost every mental disorder can be traced back to some abnormality, either in brain functioning or in brain structure or in the chemistry of the brain. Okay, so a lot of research has been done on mental disorders, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, learning disorders. I could go on and on, autism. Okay, and all of these mental disorders, while they have multiple etiological factors, we can't deny that one of those factors tends to be the brain. Okay. And the more research that is done, the more answers that will be uncovered that will allow us to understand specifically how it is that the brain is involved in the development or etiology of these brain disorders, mental disorders, excuse me. Okay. Third reason why it's important for psychologists to have an understanding of the brain is because many psychologists provide services to individuals who are suffering from certain brain disorders, such as Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's disease. And while Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease are not mental disorders, they do interfere with psychological functioning. Okay. Most brain disorders involve some sort of disruption in our ability to process information cognitively. Many brain disorders also impact our ability to behave as emotional beings. Okay. And in addition, sometimes brain disorders affect our motor abilities. And motor abilities, cognitive functioning, and emotions are all within what psychologists study. So while we may not treat specifically the Alzheimer's disease, we may need to provide services to an individual who has Alzheimer's disease because it affects their psychological functioning. And lastly, another very important reason why we should have a good understanding of how the brain functions is because many of the pharmacological treatments, by that I mean treatment via drugs and medications, that are used to treat most of the mental disorders, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, etc., involve altering brain chemistry, specifically altering the levels of various different neurotransmitters, which are chemical substances that the brain produces and are involved in allowing us to engage in most of our psychological functioning. So most of these medications involve an alteration, if you will, of brain chemistry. And therefore, it's important for us to understand how it is that they work to treat the disorder, as well as potential side effects that may arise from using that medication, because sometimes certain hormones that are in our brain, these chemicals, control more than one function. And while you alter the levels in order to treat one disorder, you might be altering other functions. For example, a common side effect of antidepressants is insomnia, because serotonin, the neurotransmitter that is involved in emotion, is also involved in sleep. Okay? So those are the reasons why it's important for psychologists to have an understanding of the brain.